Good morning. We'll call this meeting to order. And if you'll please rise, the invocation by Supervisor Wakamoto and then the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather. Guide us as we make good decisions and help us in our wisdom to do what is right. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I got that one right.
The Board of Supervisors may, by motion, recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorney on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to the Arizona Revised Statutes. Now we'll call for a motion action to call for an executive session to be held on August the 6th, 2018 at 9 a.m. for the discussion, consultation with legal counsel in accordance with the Arizona Revised Statutes to discuss items noticed on the agenda with an asterisk.
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
Second. Questions? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, motion carried unanimously. On to official business to come before the board. Mr. Ryan Esplin. Any items of litigation?
Nothing to report to the board this morning.
Thank you. Committee and or legislative reports. Start to my left. Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We got the NACO conference going on at public lands. The Forest Service is developing a guidebook with NACO, building and retaining better agency relationships with local governments. While the concepts seem quite basic, both believe that there is a need to help employees and managers to do better at coordinating and communicating between the agencies and local governments. It should be issued in September. The emphasis is on a strong message from leadership and building consistent relationships with both understanding their roles. The recommendations include direction to Fish and Wildlife Service employees to become part of their communities, attend local meetings, and better manage transactions with new employees and managers. It encourages joint field meetings and reviews. A follow-up presentation by Reg Johnson of the state of Utah carried on how Utah has developed and decided its counties on how to put their direction for land use, including integration of federal land in their land use plans. In this way, counties have a public document with their formally expressed direction for federal land uses. Under FLPMA, Section 202, BLM is directed to coordinate its planning with that of local government. Too often it occurs in a one-way direction where BLM coordinates with counties only after BLM has drafted alternatives and proposals, yet BLM is required to do so due to a consistency review with local government plans. Too often, in fact, well, almost always, the county may have adverse comments to make on a BLM plan, but they are ad hoc and informal and not part of the formal board or commissioner's actions. While Utah has formally directed that counties include their direction for federal land use in their land use plans and supplies help and guidance from the governor's office, it does not require state law or regulation for counties to undertake such integration and inclusion. Mark Haggerty of Headwaters Economics made a presentation on PILT and secure rural schools, including a history of how the funding has evolved and become distorted over time. Headwaters is providing input into NACO on formula alternatives and effects. This dates back to 1976. Haggerty's conclusion after all this is that no formula is without fault. What provides help to one may and likely will have adverse effects on others, and the others may have as much need for the funding for its operations as those mid-sized counties which get hurt. Complex sums up the problems. part of the problem is what they're looking at is they want to stop all logging and take it out, basically what it is. The balance of the meeting went on with the directed the resolutions. The platform discussions were passed without any changes, and 20 policy resolutions were passed without any comment at all. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. Quite well put. That was a long meeting, and hopefully we'll see some fruits of that labor.
And just to follow up with that, if we do our land use, if we want to look at it again, if we would have had, say, the withdrawal area in mining in our land use plan, we've been kind of ignoring that, saying, well, that's federal land, we don't have anything to say. But if we put it in, then the feds have to at least acknowledge and get involved ahead of the time before they stop all our use on federal lands.
Right. Thank you. Supervisor Angus.
Nothing this morning, thank you.
Supervisor Wakamoto. Would you like to report on our meeting last week?
I would. Chairman Watson, County Manager Mike Hendricks, and myself went to the MVIDD meeting where, after extensive discussion and a lot of input from people, the Board of Supervisors themselves, since CAP has ended their contract, took it upon themselves to change the resolution to be able to move water out of the area. Dan Ayler, who is a local resident, brought forth a compelling argument about conflict of interest and joint partnerships with the board, and the Attorney General's office continues to look into this. We feel that this is just the first step. We are continue to feel strong about the fact that we will be able to protect our water since we have so little. And I thank everybody that showed up, if any of you are here, for the support and continued vigilance over this situation.
Thank you. And I have very little report after that.
Oh, sorry.
You did a great job. That's super. That was quite a meeting, and I just want everyone to know that Mojave County is deeply entrenched in this fight against the transfer of water from the Colorado River to the mid portion of the state, and we're doing everything that we possibly can to make sure that that does not happen. County Manager's report.
No report today, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4, approve the June 4th, 2018 Board of Supervisors minute.
Motion to approve.
Motion. All set. And second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried unanimously. On down to call to the public. Those wishing to address the board at the call to the public regarding matters not on the board agenda must fill out and submit to the clerk a call to the public request to speak form. They are located in the back of the room, and they must be done prior to the meeting. Action taken as a result of the public comments will be limited to responding to criticism, referral to staff, or placing a matter on a future agenda. Comments are restricted to items not on the regular agenda, with the exception of the consent agenda, and must relate to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. I have a number of people signed up to speak. Royanne Ortiz.
Thank you, Chairman Watson. My name is Royanne Ortiz. I live at 1550 Monte Vista in Bullhead City. I'm a registered voter and a resident in Mojave County. I'm here today to publicly register my dissatisfaction with the behavior of an elected official who currently represents voters like myself in Mojave County in the Arizona legislative body. I was deeply disturbed to learn that an elected official believed he was above the law in terms of having legislative immunity when it comes to complying with the rules of the road. There's a video on the internet which has gone viral, which means it may have started out in Mojave County. It's now international. And he's bragging about how 97 miles per hour that he was pulled over for was nothing compared to the 140 that he has gone coming from Phoenix up to his home in Lake Havasu. The reason for speeding is irrelevant because he was risking the lives of everyone who was on the road with him at the same time. It's no wonder that our young people get the impression that politicians have privileges, and the privileges is to speed anytime they want. That's why I'm here publicly voicing my opinion that he should be censured at all levels of government. So I encourage you as individuals to do the same as I am and to speak publicly. It's my understanding you can't do it as a body, and that's a shame. And I just hope that the state legislature takes some action regarding this individual. Thank you.
Thank you. Eva Corbett?
Good morning, Chairman Watson and members of the Board of Supervisors. My voice isn't working yet. I'm awake, but my voice isn't. Anyway, I'm here representing the H2O committee formed in Bullhead City to oppose the consolidation.
Did you give us
I'm
your
sorry,
name?
my address. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. 2426 Topanga Drive, Bullhead City.
Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. You want me to start over? Anyway, I'm with the H2O committee. I'm the secretary-treasurer, and we were established to oppose the consolidation of EPCOR, Arizona, which is owned by Edmonton, Canada, in their consolidation of Bullhead City and other Mojave County areas with Phoenix area, metro area. And we feel that we can run our own utility company in Bullhead City, and we're hoping that I'm asking for the Board of Supervisors to support us in this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan?
Good morning. My name is Jem Morgan, 4370 North Charles Drive in Kingman, District 1. I'm here to talk about the water sustainability issue. It's going to be an ongoing issue for a long time. What I want to say is that I have said this before, but water is a basic human right. However this earth was created, however human beings were created, whether there was another human being on this earth or not, the human being was provided with the water to survive on this earth. Water, air, food, these are basic human rights to life. That is now in conflict with human interventions of property rights and the legal issue of water rights. That is what's at issue here. This county is allowing commercial agriculture, which is putting our basic human right of water at risk. We don't need expert opinions on that. All you have to do is drive to Lake Mead and you can see the water levels dropping. You have to just drive out on Stockton Hill Boulevard to see the commercial agriculture out there dropping wells. Every however many feet, the water rights laws are allowing them to drop them. It's common sense that we are using water faster than our ability to recharge these water sources. Our ability to sustain life, basic human life here in Mojave County, is at risk. I don't know why or how this county was ever zoned for commercial agriculture. It should have never been zoned for commercial agriculture, and that needs to change. I was at the hearing where Representative Bowers made his little comment about the rezoning of the property that down somewhere in Phoenix, where it was rezoned so that the property couldn't be sold, and that's a separate issue. We are talking about, we're a dry desert climate here in Mojave County. We should have never been zoned ever for commercial agriculture, and that needs to be changed. I had a conversation recently with an influential person in Kingman. I will just leave the person unnamed. We're being forced to start to look at pounding the pavement for petitions to be signed, because we're not going to sit back while this county continues to allow commercial agriculture to come in and suck the aquifers dry and use the water. It needs to be here sustainable for everyone, to include human life. The question that I'm starting to ask is, because it is in violation of our basic human rights to life potentially, is it actionable with a class action suit to sue, you know, to actually take action against the county? So thank you very much.
Thank you. Stephen Robinson.
Stephen Robinson, 3442 North La Osa Drive in Golden Valley. My first statement or question is Buster's opinion piece that appeared in the Havasu News last week, attacking a private citizen. Is that the position of this board, that they would allow such attacks against private citizens? Second issue, last meeting, item 42 discussed the county code, and Mr. Esplin had explained that 4-3 needed to be updated. Specifically, what I think he meant, and clearly one of the supervisors didn't understand, was that subsections D and E violate the U.S. Constitution and numerous of U.S. Supreme Court rulings. So that needed to be explained in better detail so that the supervisor who's not here today understands that. Thirdly, on that point, was what you did say about ARS 11-1604 was correct, which is why I had submitted that request to Senator Borelli. And I'm glad that we've now acknowledged that you can't have unwritten guidelines in planning and zoning, and that's why animal control inspections, being the basis of a permit issuance under 37J, is inappropriate. The last thing I want to talk about is that I've looked at other counties and cities. All of them have a checklist of all the applications for building permits, for planning and zoning permits applications, except Mojave County doesn't. We don't know what's happening when someone gets a permit, when they've applied, how long it takes. And I know that there's been incidences where some people are fast-tracked while others have been stalled for months, if not years. If we had a report, a list on the website that explained when a person applied, what the steps were, and it showed all the way across the flow chart what the guidelines allowed and are stated, it would help the people see that the county is following it appropriately. A good example of that not happening was when the whole agricultural exemption issue came up 2.5 years ago, and there was one builder who built $1 million home on a 4.5-acre parcel and was exempt from paying the $10,000 fee because allegedly that 4.5 acres was going to be agriculture. Well, that was bogus, and those are the kinds of things that we need to see as the public. And I would encourage you to say, hey, let's take a look at the issue that there's $500,000 in the technology fund for P&Z and building inspection. Let's use that money if we need to set up an account or set up a list of those expenses. Thank you.
Ms. Chevalier.
Good morning. Okay. I'm Jacqueline Chevalier. I live at 3967 North Mormon Flat Road, Golden Valley. Chairman Watson, supervisors, and staff. In a letter to the editor at Havasu News, Supervisor Johnson said the so-called facts about the counties seizing my AKC-registered German Shepherds, quote, tell a different story. Buster quoted from the article but complained about the reporter not contacting him. He finished by claiming my dogs were mistreated. Once again, I need to refute almost everything he said. Buster, at least you got the quote right. Does the reporter need your permission to report? You said I was convicted of animal cruelty. False. That charge was dismissed. The animal control officer even apologized to me. Also, no animals were taken or seized before last December. That seizure case is on appeal. Oral arguments were heard last Friday, but the county's attorney admitted the record proved I had purchased 50 pounds of dog food every 3 days for months, but she claimed I didn't feed my dogs. What? Did I eat the food? There was an injury, but it occurred under the Humane Society's watch. That either deliberately misled the attorney or he knew they lied. Yes, I filed a claim, just as state statute requires. After all, the county illegally seized my dogs. Buster, when you say people lie in the call, is that opposed to you lying from your seat? Do you accuse everyone of lying or just those who stand up to you? You said the pictures are part of the public record, but the record is much larger than you admit. They include photographs that the county failed to submit at the January 4th hearing, as well as the photos showing my yard all cleaned up a year ago. Do you support willfully misleading the judge? The full record tells a different story. Only one veterinarian testified 4 months after being licensed. She did say that 12 of the 15 dogs were in fair condition. Further, there were only 7 to 10% underweight 2 days after they were seized. She also said one dog was 2 years older than her mother and claimed another dog had birthed a litter. But Raven was pregnant for the first time when seized. Make sure you have your so-called facts right, Supervisor Johnson, before accusing others of lying, because your facts are a fairy tale. My dogs and I are still suffering. Thank you very much.
I believe that concludes our call to the public. I understand that there'll be no presentation this morning. I was really looking forward to that, Sheriff Schuster. But I understand that the person is not available here today to receive that award. Is that correct? Thank you. Continue to do such a great job. Appreciate that. Okay, now on to the consent agenda. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion of said items unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. Starting to my left, Supervisor Johnson, do you have anything to pull?
Nothing this morning, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Angus?
Nothing.
Supervisor Wakamoto?
Nothing.
Is Supervisor Bishop on yet? Supervisor Bishop, do you have any items to pull off the consent agenda?
No, I don't.
Thank you very much. Well, that makes it unanimous, which is highly unusual, but Chair would entertain a motion then to move forward on items 5 through 37 on the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for items 5 through 37 on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion, let the record show that the motion carried unanimously. On to item number 38, public hearing. This has to do with the Mojave County Treasurer. At this time, I'll open the public hearing for item number 38. This is for the discussion, possible action regarding the adoption of the fee schedule updates shown on the attachments for Mojave County Treasurer. Is our Mojave County Treasurer available for comment? Good morning.
Morning, Chairman Watson, members of the board.
Have any questions? Supervisor, I guess.
I have a question, an issue with the raise of the notary fees. It seems a bit excessive, to tell you the truth. We've all gotten notaries done, and to go from, what is it, $2 now, is that what it is right now?
It's currently $2, that's correct.
Up to $10, which is the maximum that state law allows, again, seems excessive. When you come here and you find out you need things notarized, it's kind of a convenience and a service for us to do that. And you're kind of stuck. I mean, you could leave and find a notary, but no one's going to do that for a couple of bucks. But what's going to happen is they're going to leave here a little resentful. That's the way I look at it. I'm not against a few bucks going up, but it's a lot. And so I would prefer to see maybe $5 instead of $10, which I think is much more reasonable.
I would say the increase in fee, so the notary fee has not been increased since 1996, so 20 plus years. Also, the treasurer's office typically, I would say 99% of the time, any documents that are notarized are part of a tax lien foreclosure proceeding in which the person who is pursuing that foreclosure is doing it to enrich themselves. But more to the point, ARS 11493, which actually dictates the duties of the treasurer's office, nowhere in there is providing a notary service to the public, one of the duties of the treasurer. So there's, I can see the objection to increasing it from $2 to $10, but again, it's something that is typically only performed as part of a tax lien foreclosure proceeding.
How many do you do a year about?
The tax lien foreclosures?
No, to notarize documents. I would think it was more than that. I mean, I've gotten things notarized here. I mean, if anybody can go down there to the window and get something notarized, that's what you're talking about. That would be up to $10 too, or is it just for the foreclosure?
The tax lien foreclosures are typically not handled at the window. That's part of a legal process, and so we're in communication with the county attorney's office, with our representative there, and there's documents that they send down once the court proceedings have taken place that we have to notarize.
Okay, but if today I had something I wanted to get notarized, let's say I went up to elections and I had to get something notarized, I can go down to the window, because I've done it before. And so will that be raised till $10 as well?
I can't speak for the elections office, but if it was at the treasurer's window, yes, it would.
Yeah, so all of them. So you're saying that there are a few of the things, but it will be for everything, and that's what I'm concerned about. The foreclosure liens, I kind of understand that, but it's just a general service that we offer our constituents, that they're paying our salaries. I don't think it should be above what they have to pay if they go somewhere else. And if I'm wrong about how much it costs if you went to a bank or if you just go to a notary service, I think we have a couple of notaries in the audience that might have some insight into that. I see two sitting right here. Can I ask Jeannie Kench, because I think she's a notary, how much in public they charge in a public notary.
Thank you for having me, Chairman, Board. $2 is the normal, so, but you can do service fees, and that's where the $10, I believe, is coming from. When I had a notary company, if we were to go somewhere, it would be up to $25, depending on where we went, yes.
Okay.
It was a $2 fee for the notary, but it was, the balance was for a service fee, which you're allowed to do.
Okay, so if someone leaves here and goes to a notary place, you know, which we have, convenience notaries, you're telling me it can be up to $25?
Well, when we went to them, yes. If they came, most of the time you can go to a bank and they'll do it.
Right.
If you have an account, they'll do it free, or it could be $2. But I believe that $2 is the maximum for the actual signature, but you can do a service fee, which is what we would do because we would come to you. So $2, obviously, even going from one side of Havasu to the other would not even take care of the gas. So it's the service fee that you can do as much as you want, I believe, but I think $20 to $25 if we went to them would be normal.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to point it out. If it's the will of the board, you know, I'll go along with it. I just thought it looked a little excessive to raise it to its max, you know, from 1996 and now to the max.
Supervisor Angus, members of the board, I did want to just correct something. We do not charge any service fees. The statutes were revised effective March 5th of this year to permit notaries to charge anywhere from $0 to $10 per notarial act, and that's where this fee increase is coming from.
Right. And, you know, I just want to make the point that everyone's salary is paid from taxpayers anyway. Yeah, so it's double. And again, it's about customer service, and just don't want people leaving here a little resentful. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and board members, I would assume that the board, in contemplating this action, would set a fee across the board for all our notary services. I know the clerk of the board's office is a notary up there, and I would hate for some customer of the Mojave County to shop notaries to try to get the lowest price or no cost in doing the business, and then conceivably the clerk's board would be receiving all of those wishing to have documents notarized down in the treasurer's office come up and interrupt their business during the day.
How much does the clerk charge?
Chairman Angus, when my office is fully staffed, we do provide notaries, and we do provide them at no charge, as we feel the taxpayer money pays for the notary, and as you mentioned, we are paid by taxpayer money.
So when they're doing these foreclosures, you know, and it's being done, I would assume not always in-house, that it's being done outside and through mail and stuff. I can see that as part of the general fee structure, but I'm sort of mixing it up with this kind of thing. So you're right. So if people go to the window at the treasurer's office, because it has a sign there saying that we are a notary, they can literally just go up to the third floor, and that will kind of get out. So they can either pay $10 at the treasurer's office or go up to the third floor. So I agree with Mr. Hendricks that whatever we do, we need to do across the board, unless it's for these specific foreclosure things.
So would the appropriate action then be to possibly suggest tabling this until we find out what all the fees are throughout Mojave County and then make them uniform?
Mr. Hendricks, is...
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I can jump in on that, I think this is for a public hearing, so we can set that. We can just come back and make a flat fee for the county. If I may, I'd like to ask the gentleman a question.
Certainly.
The treasurer's office, you're saying, is not required to have a notary?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying we're not required to provide notary services to the general public for any sort of notarized document need.
Okay, so
We provide notary services for the specific, you know, like I mentioned, for tax lien holders as part of a tax lien foreclosure proceeding, because those documents are required by statute to be notarized. But those are the only documents within our office that we perform notary services for.
And then maybe you know more than obviously I do about the notary, but they have to be bonded and go through some sort of process and have some kind of liability on their notary to become a notary?
That's correct. There's an application process, and part of that is being bonded.
Yeah, that's the only thing I see. That if we have providing a service, somebody has to pay for it.
Understand. And we're still under the public hearing. Any further questions for the Treasurer's Department? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to item number 38? It appears that no one else is wishing to speak, so I'll close the public hearing for item number 38.
Chairman Watson, if I may just ask, if the board is considering tabling this, can we just table the notary fee and maybe have a motion to approve the other revisions to the fee schedule?
That appears appropriate. Chair would entertain a motion.
Chairman Watson, I make a motion that we approve the fee schedule as shown minus the notary fee, and set a public hearing for a new notary fee.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is the clerk clear on the motion? Yes, sir. All right, very good. On this item, let's have a roll call vote. I'm sorry, those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed, nay. But let's do a roll call.
Supervisor Angus?
Aye.
Supervisor Johnson?
No.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
Supervisor Wakamoto?
Yes.
Chairman Watson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On to item number 39 under the regular agenda. Sitting as the Board of Directors for the Golden Valley County Improvement District Number 1 for the discussion, possible action to set a public hearing to consider the proposed amendment to its Policies and Procedures Memorandum number 90-1 as shown in the amendment number 18-2 to establish modified guidelines and procedures on billing practices and customer service connections. Mr. Litowski.
Just to set up public.
Morning, Chairman Watson, members of the board. Staff has placed this modification to the Golden Valley Improvement District Policies and Procedures as means of our response to identification of a couple of efficiencies that we see that could potentially be gained with the adoption. One of which is the representation that certain service connections maintained by a property owner. Service connection provides for 200 gallons per day, which is typical of a usual residence consumption. But we've had some customers of Golden Valley Improvement District who hold multiple allocations express interest in utilizing an allocation and establishing a service connection for means of say tending to animal care or certain grounds maintenance. You know, a level of water consumption that demands a separate service connection as well as the use of water to satisfy those interests. And the second one comes to our attention as a result of the real estate broker community, and that is there are several real estate companies that are holding multiple properties in the Golden Valley Improvement District. And as it currently stands right now, and again, we manage strictly to the policies and procedures, we require individual accounts and $90 deposits for each and every account that that real estate company is in charge of. So I personally identified a mechanism by which these companies can either present an irrevocable line of credit, and that would satisfy our interests and then negate any deposits, or in the interest of actually consolidating deposits, those companies may post a utility bond or a certificate of deposit, for that matter, for the amount of each parcel. So again, they're not burdened with that $90 for every account. So it's a streamlined approach both for them as well as for us. So those are the two proposals for the board to consider.
Thank you, Ms. Lutowski.
Could I just say that you have a little bit of housekeeping, because you have $25 and on page 5 it says $2,500. I think just a little bit of housekeeping in that item.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Wakamoto, I'm still trying to identify that.
It's a charge in the fees. I think you forgot just the decimal point, that's all.
Okay.
That's what we're voting on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a public hearing, okay, just,
Set the
Yeah, we're just setting a public hearing.
all right.
Any further questions for Mr. Lutowski? Okay. Chair will entertain a motion then to set a public hearing.
I make a motion that we set a public hearing to consider proposed amendment to the Policy and Procedure Memorandum Number 90-1, as shown in Amendment Number 18-2, to establish modified guidelines and procedures on billing practices and customer service connections.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Excuse me, Chairman Watson, do we need to specify a public hearing date
specify
so
a
it can
date,
be
I believe.
published correctly?
That'd be a good idea.
Okay, if you'll specify a date in your motion.
Okay, what's the?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Esplin for time frame, 15 days, 30 days. I'm not sure of the legal.
I'd recommend we do it for the second meeting in August. That would be 30 days. That'd be
Okay.
sufficient. This isn't an ordinance change. It's really just something to set it for a public hearing so that people have an opportunity to speak. But I would set it for the second one in August. There's no real rush on it either. So
Okay, so I amend my motion that we set the public hearing to the second meeting in August.
Second.
We have a motion and a second as amended. Any further discussion? There being none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Let the record show that the item was unanimously approved. On to item number 40, sitting as the Board of Directors for the Golden Valley Improvement District Number 1, discussion, possible action for the adoption of Resolution 2018-02 and accept the owner's request for property addition to the Golden Valley Improvement District Number 1 for Lot 8 of Block M, Golden Sage Ranchos, Unit 61, and approve the establishment of new boundaries for the improvement district as per the Arizona revised statutes. Again, Mr. Lutowski.
Chairman Watson, members of the board, this item concerns a contemplated expansion of the boundaries of Golden Valley Improvement District to encompass one residential parcel. We have a landowner and a resident in the area who desires to connect to the Golden Valley Improvement District's water system. Should the board contemplate approving allowing this parcel into the district, the property owner would have to acquire a unassigned water allocation from the district, as well as pay all fees for connection to the district. So the activities subsequent, if the board were to consider approving this, would be at no cost to the district, and the property owner would bear all costs. And I must also add that regarding the previous item, I did just find that misnomer there on the policy and procedure, and my sincere apologies to the board for that oversight.
Thank you. Question for Ms. Lutowski? No? Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve item 40.
Item 40.
Second. I seconded?
Yeah, he said.
Oh.
Oh, you have a motion?
Mhm.
And
I
a second?
made a motion.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Any further discussion? There being no further discussion, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Is that it? Oh.
It's just time lapse. If you want to reaffirm, but I believe it was an affirmative vote.
Right. Supervisor Bishop, can you clarify whether that was a in favor of vote or an against vote?
That was a yes in favor.
Okay, thank you.
Affirmative. Yeah, that makes it unanimous. Thank you. Item 41, discussion, possible action, approve and authorize the chairman of the board of supervisors to sign the private access gate license between Mojave County and the Colorado River Property Owners Association to allow the association to install, operate, and maintain a private access gate on Courtright Road between Evans Lane and Dyke Road for a period of 10 years, subject to the renewal, and further authorize the association's previously remitted abandonment application fee of $600 to be applied as the license fee for the initial term of 10 years. Mr. Lutowski, I may have a question or two for you on this. Questions for Mr. Lutowski?
Thank you,
Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I oppose this. The county owns land down there, and this is going to block off access if we decide to open that land up to the public. It's the only waterway access that is down in that area that the public owns, and the county owns that. And this has been brought to us before numerous times, trying to shut down that access, and I would oppose it.
Thank you.
Mr. Lutowski, could you tell us about the different colonies and where our land is in terms of the Dyke Road?
Chairman Watson, Supervisor Wakamoto, this action concerns the Board of Supervisors entering into a lease agreement for a period of 10 years for the Homeowners Association to place a gate at the westerly end of Courtright Road. Now, the county maintains Courtright Road, a paved road, from State Route 95 west until it meets with Dyke Road. Now, Dyke Road is a private road. It's somewhat discontinuous in its development through the area of Bermuda Plantations. So, with regard to the three colonies of Bermuda Plantations, there's a lower colony, there's a middle colony, and then there's an upper colony. And the lower colony basically takes off northward from Harbor Avenue, from the State Route 95 where it terminates at the Needles Bridge. Now, the county owns a right-of-way. It's held in fee. It's a 50-foot wide right-of-way, and it's termed River Avenue, and it extends from the Colorado River on eastward, and it does intersect Dyke Road. So essentially, the county does have right-of-way or property, for that matter, on the Colorado River width of 50 feet from Dyke Road. Now, Dyke Road is a paved road through the lower colony, and that's where River Avenue exists. River Avenue is basically part of the so-called lower colony, and that is most directly accessible via Harbor Avenue. There is an existing gate that's computer controlled on Dyke Road with the lower colony, and because Dyke Road is a private roadway. Now, where Courtright Road intersects Bermuda Plantation, it is in the vicinity of the middle colony. And Dyke Road is hard surface or paved in that area, but further south, where one could try to access River Avenue, further south, it's actually undeveloped in certain areas and frankly gated between the middle colony and the upper and the lower colony. So one could not physically drive to River Avenue. But in the future, if Dyke Road were improved or even petitioned by the property owners into to the county for acceptance of maintenance, then yes, that would be a viable second means of accessing River Avenue. So that kind of encapsulates more or less the relationship between the middle colony, the lower colony, and River Avenue, and the two-axis means of access.
But our property is in the lower colony that's already that is already gated?
Supervisor Wakamoto, correct. We are in what's called the lower colony, which would be most directly accessed by Dyke Road coming off of Harbor Avenue, the State Route 95.
And this gate that they're asking to lease is in the middle colony?
Supervisor Wakamoto, that's correct. The gate would provide access to the middle colony. The purpose, we understand from the property owners, is to generally limit the general public from accessing that area of private homes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? I've got a question. So, we own the right-of-way, and it goes all the way to the river, correct?
Chairman Watson, in regard to River Avenue, yes, we own the right-of-way to the river, from Dyke Road to
River Avenue.
Correct, River Avenue.
So, if we were to authorize this gate, then we would be shutting off access to the public for that particular portion. Is that correct?
Chairman Watson, a couple of points. One, if the board were to contemplate this, it would be for a period of 10 years. The county would not be relinquishing its rights to Courtright Road right-of-way, as well as Courtright Road in general. However, as it stands right now, one cannot physically drive to River Avenue via Courtright Road. There's a gate across Dyke Road between the lower colony and the middle colony, and there's actually portions of Dyke Road that quite honestly are undeveloped. They're not paved, and they're really not maintained.
Thank you. Answers my question. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Latowski? No? Chair would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve and authorize the chairman of the Board of Supervisors to sign the private access gate between Mojave County and the Colorado Riverfront Properties Owners Association.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is the clerk clear on the motion? Okay. I believe we probably ought to have a roll call.
Supervisor Angus?
Aye.
Supervisor Johnson?
No.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
Supervisor Wakamoto?
Yes.
Chairman Watson?
No.
Motion carries 3-2.
Thank you. On to item number 42. Discussion, possible action. Direct staff to look into the cost, resources, and staff time and it takes to respond to public records request. That's brought to us by Supervisor Johnson. If you would like to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But to back up, this is nothing new that the board's not familiar with, but we've had people claiming that we're not being quick enough on getting the FOIA requests back. And so that was what I thought I would bring back to see if we could, my motion would be to direct staff to bring back, I would guess, second meeting in August. Would that be enough time, Mr. Hendricks?
Mr. Chairman, we can certainly try to bring it back by that time and agendize it for that date.
Bring back second week in August to look at costs, resources, and staff time it takes to respond to public records requests.
Thank you. We have one person signed up to speak to that item. Mr. Robinson.
Steve Robinson, Golden Valley, Arizona. 5 years ago, when the new board took office in January, one of the major changes that I really appreciated was all the agenda items and agendas and minutes from the past were made public. And that was a good thing because we didn't have to waste the county's time to ask for something that we could access online. I asked a question at that point, why was I paying for printed copies of these things when they could have been emailed to me because it was already in a PDF format? The response was, well, you need to have some skin in the game. I think I have a hell of a lot of skin in this game trying to follow and help make sure that the people's interests are paid attention to. So I support legitimate, concerning of costs. We're required to have, the public records request. One of the things that's happened is that instead of things being communicated electronically, there was one request that I tried to summarize what I needed. Instead, over 250 or 1,200 pages were printed. I wasn't about to pay $200 when those items could have been sent to me in an email format. And there's others who have made extensive requests. One thing I strongly encourage is that you focus on making sure whatever can be sent out via email, that's a lot simpler, a lot quicker than having it photocopied. Some things have to be photocopied because they're not already in a portable document format. The one request I had made last week, and last meeting that I had made a mention of, it wasn't the November 6th request, Mr. Hendricks, it was the December 13th request. In that request, I asked for all the required annual reports from GVID based upon the designation of adequate water supply that was issued in July of 1995.
1 second, Mr. Robbins. I think we're getting off the points just to come back with a report.
And I would agree. I mean, this is a specific issue that's not related to the agenda item that says staff to look into the cost, resources,
on that address, on that point specifically, it has been 7 months since I made that request, and it still hasn't been filled.
And if I can have a point of order, Chairman.
Okay, well, I've made my point. Thank you very much.
Well, I've got a point to make with you, Mr. Robinson.
Sure.
We've got a box of about 1,200 pages of your request that are not paid for. What's your intention?
Well, I'll come back up there and take a look through that box. I didn't know you still had it, but it was far more than I had asked for. I asked for a summary, and instead what was prepared was actual copies of pay stubs, actual copies of payroll reports, so there was a misinterpretation. So I'm answering your question
here, but I would like for you to do some action on this, and
I'll be up there.
Let it be known that there's a box up there. If you can find your way to
I'll be up there
your
soon.
Request, because we're honoring yours.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion.
Chairman Watson, may I say something? And this may have been included in Supervisor Johnson's motion, but can you repeat that? I want to make sure that everything that I think we should get is in that motion.
He has a motion to direct staff to bring back in the second meeting of August cost, staff time.
Can you also
basically, yeah.
Okay. Can you also include the number that we have received in the last, let me say 5 years, since this in 2012? Because I don't think the public realizes how many we get, and they're big. And I think the point of Chairman Watson's statement was that a lot of times our county takes the time and then people don't want to pay it. And we have been threatened and asked to give these things for free, when the irony is that there's the same people who are saying that we don't take care of the money, we're not fiscally responsible. But when you make a request, it says it right there that you have to pay for what you get, and we've honored our side and we expect the public to honor theirs. So I would like also how many of these requests and the number of pages, because some of them are literally thousands, and it takes a lot of time.
I believe that's included in the...
Is it? Okay, so thank you for letting me grandstand
And
there
now
a
it's
bit
really
then.
included, so...
I believe Mr. Hendricks wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we'll certainly try to comply with Supervisor Johnson's request. I know it's an incredibly important issue and it takes up a lot of time, and it's part of our job as public servants to provide this. But I do want to be clear that some of the requests actually entail us creating documents and us doing research for the individual, and that's not included in the statute as one of the duties. If we have a document that's available, an individual can either come into the office and look at that document or request copies of it, and that's when we can charge. I would also believe it could be valuable, and I'm not sure about the legality of this, is on public information requests, if we had an area on our county website that we could actually post those public information requests and who they were requested by, and then identify the amount of time that it's taken and the cost associated with the counties. I think it would be very telling and important information for our public to view, to actually see where those requests are coming from, how much time it's taking, and it does take valuable time. I also want to recognize that the person in my office that will be pulling this information together for the board is Yvonne, or my assistant to the county manager, and you know she can certainly do it. Linda will be assisting her in this. We've got a staff of 2 up in administration, but it is a mountainous task because it's not something that we've tracked previously. But thanks to the board for allowing me to speak.
You're welcome. Okay, I believe we have a motion and a second. Is that correct? No.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second now. And is the clerk clear on the motion? Very good. Any further discussion? There being no further discussion, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Motion to adjourn.
Accepted. Motion to adjourn. Thank you.